Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for taking the time and trouble to be here this afternoon. I'd like to thank Mr. Tarbutton and his colleagues for putting this together. I must say this is a much larger crowd than I would have anticipated on a Saturday of Independence Day. It's wonderful to look out and see so many patriots here. I'm going to keep my remarks mercifully brief. I'm going to offer a word of caution to you and then a word of hope. The word of caution, I'll start with a little story. On Monday, June 22nd, I had the pleasure of being interviewed on a radio station, Rob Schilling's program in Charlottesville. The subject of the discussion was eminent domain and the Kelo decision, Kelo versus City of New London. The anniversary of the Supreme Court decision took place on Tuesday, the 23rd of June. And the reason I mention this is that the day after the Kelo decision was rendered, I suppose most of you do remember this was a situation in which the Supreme Court said basically, yes indeed, cities can snatch your property for damn near any reason they want to. The day after that decision came forth, June 24th, 2005, I was doing outreach up in Northern Virginia at a beer festival, one of my favorite passions, and people were utterly livid at this Supreme Court decision. I had people basically walking up and grabbing me by the lapels of my jacket saying, "What do we do about this abomination?" A year later, you could find some people who did remember that Kelo had been decided a year previously, but there just didn't seem to be the degree of anger. 2 years later, you basically would have to look very hard to find people who were still angry and ready to protest at the Kelo decision. This year, basically nobody remembered, or at least very few people remembered. And I mention this because we who are part of what I'll call the Leave Us Alone coalition, those of us who believe in basically the government is there to protect our rights and not to engage in social engineering, those of us who believe in basically living our lives in peace and harmony with our neighbors, we by and large it's very hard for us to maintain righteous anger at how the government is destroying our liberties. And let's have no misunderstanding, our liberties are vanishing at a frightening pace. But people on our side of the political fence, by and large, we just find it hard to stay angry. We're not in a perpetual state of rage. Most of us have lives, families, children, jobs, enthusiasms, and passions to worry about. And we don't look to government as a way of solving our problems. And so we're just too busy living our lives to be involved in politics. And it's so easy for those people, as part of the Leave Us Alone coalition, to basically say every now and then, you know, tomorrow, I'll be involved in tomorrow, I'll be involved in purposeful political activity tomorrow. The people on the other side of the fence, part of what I'll call the Takings Coalition, they're active in ways, they enjoy politics in ways that we do not. They have an enthusiasm for the use of government that is, I personally find rather sickening. And they are constantly on the march to basically impose their view of the good society upon us. So if we want to reclaim our liberties, if we want to move America back to where it should be, that place of individual liberty and personal responsibility, we have to be willing to work hard. We have to be willing to make the sacrifices. I was a basketball player in my younger days, and like a lot of men my age, the older I get, the better I used to be. The eminent moral philosopher and basketball coach Bobby Knight used to talk about the will to win. Do you have the will to win? Well, he said, everybody's got the will to win. Do you have the will to prepare? Do you have the will to do what's necessary to be able to go forward and fight on the battlefield of politics to reclaim our liberty? I hope that you're willing to invest that time. You should be asking yourself every day, how can I move the ball down the field? How can I help the United States get back to that place of being a place of liberty and personal responsibility? The comment of hope that I'll offer is that, ladies and gentlemen, we're right. Our principles are right. We are right morally, we're right prudentially. Society's based on the principles of individual liberty and personal responsibility. Government is there as our servant. We empower it. We give it a few limited, enumerated powers. That principle is morally right and it's prudentially good. We should never be bashful about, frankly, being proud. We're right, doggone it. I was going to say something stronger. We're right, doggone it. And there are enough of us, there are enough people on this hill here If we're willing to work hard and smart, we will reclaim the America that should be the America of individual liberty and personal responsibility. Again, thank you to the organizers. Thank to all of you, patriots in the best sense of the term. Thank you.